Good morning again. It's only 3 minutes past our time, so we'll wait and see for a few more minutes, and let's see how we're going to work on it. My name is Lolita Raman. Many of you would have talked to me in the past, or at least attended a webinar, or maybe even an in-person workshop over the years. If you have been in business for more than a few years, I'm sure you met us, many of us. Let me give you a short introduction on SCORE. What does SCORE mean? SCORE is a national organization of volunteers. We are used to be mostly retired executives, but now we have a lot of young people joining us, wanting to give back to the community. Many have a lot more experience in the current technology, current marketing aspects, and other things. So that's a good thing, because they will be relating to you better than some of us that have retired for many years, been retired for many years. But even otherwise, during the last COVID year, financial year, we helped more than 2,000 small businesses and helped to start quite a few of them and provided jobs for many of them. And during the pandemic, we helped a lot of people to get loans, EIDL, PPP loans, and now we are in the phase of starting to repay some of those loans. So that's another thing. And one of the things that the SBA did this year was you could consolidate your loans and get one loan from SBA for it. So that was one of the good things that happened this year. And I just heard this morning from SBA saying that they may be waiving some of the fees that they normally charge for small business loans for up to about $500,000 for people borrowing $500 or less. So that's something to look forward to. I don't know all the details, but we'll find out. So that's another good thing. Many of you might be using QuickBooks for your business, but it depends upon the kind of business you are in, whether you are in starting retail or service oriented, what kind of business you are in. So, so it might be a little bit different. I know a little bit about QuickBooks, but I'm not the expert on QuickBooks. So let me get started with a little bit of what's happening. So what is, what is important when you start a business? Please put your questions in question and answer so I can check it out. The other thing is, when you start a business for yourself, not everybody is versed in accounting aspects of it. Accounting is, when people look at numbers and accounting, they kind of hesitate, saying, I don't know anything about it. I have no idea what to do with this thing, So that's kind of scary for many people. But when you look for point of sale equipment or QuickBooks, Quicken, all these things are designed to help you, the people that are not that account savvy, to run your business in a very efficient manner. Unfortunately, the expert on QuickBooks today, I haven't heard from her and she's not here. So I'm going to start the presentation as well as I know. So if you have any specific questions, we can always ask you to give it to Miss Jera. So What is it? When she put in this for the life of your business, that is SCORE. We are mentors. We are education people. You can go to our website and request for a mentor. If you don't have a mentor, please do that. Request for a mentor for helping you to either grow your business, marketing your business, or if you are in contracting, to see how you can apply for the various certification processes that would help you to gain access to governmental contracting. Will it be city, the state, the federal, the port, whatever it is, So there are all opportunities. And that QuickBooks can help you also to keep track of your accounts and things like that. So with that, I'm going to get started. So let me just go. It's going to be introduction to QuickBooks. So let me see if I can start from the slide. So what does it do? What can QuickBooks do for you, So you may have this question saying, how do I get to it, This is what it's going to be like. I think I may finish earlier. So she has some slides on SCORE. SCORE was formed in 1964. Our vision is to help small businesses. We want to make sure every person that needs help gets the help. And we provide free business advice of low cost business training and share free business templates. And we have 10,000 volunteers nationally. And our chapter here in Houston is 150 strong, about 150. And we have many of our non-owner jobs we create, because every small business owner creates a job. It creates a job for yourself. You are the person that's going to be running the job, right? So that's what it's all about. So Jetta was normally the one that presents the seminar. She is a qualified, certified QuickBooks provider, and she can give you more about costs, for which I'm not very sure about. Okay, let's see. So what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about introducing QuickBooks Online. You can have either a desktop version versus a QuickBooks Online. What's the difference? The difference is online, you can share it with other people, whereas if you have it in your desktop, then that would be difficult to do. And then it has so many different things that the QuickBooks can do for you. It has consolidate all your expenses. It can provide information on your reports that you need for filing your taxes, or it can also help you to run reports that help you to plan for your business plans, business opportunities. Okay. So then let's say, what happens to a small business? I'm sure many of you are in business for longer than a year, so that you have already overcome this hurdle of 20% failure in the first year or 2 years. Over 5 years, 50% of the business fails. Why? Because they don't have the resources, they don't have the manpower. When you start a business as a single owner, you run everything. You need somebody that you can delegate to. You need someone to wear a different hat, and it wears you out. When you find that it is wearing you out, you do have a problem. So that's going to be problem for it. So what are the benefits when you do QuickBooks Online? It's a cloud-based software. That means it's done by Intuit company. You don't enter a lot of data because you share everything. And then you can be at any place. You don't have to be sitting in your office and trying to work at your desktop. And also you could have your accountant access your accounts, maybe your partner account access your accounts. So that's the big advantage. It is accessible to access over different operating systems and devices. People that are so used to using phones to handle all these things, they find it very comfortable just looking at their accounts on the phone. But me, I would be very hesitant to use it because I'm always worried about cybersecurity. Maybe somebody will come and access the account, because when you are on the, I'm just checking, on the phone, that's too much of access. So I would be very hesitant to do it. Why is it real time user? What does that mean? That is, you can be looking at it. You can access your bank account. You can download your bank account. You can pay somebody from wherever you are. So these are all the advantages of having multi-user from anywhere. And this, you also have a good supporting system. The company that has the QuickBooks into it, they have been there for a long time. They provide very good support for you. I'm sure they have some extra classes and they can help you with your system. If you have a problem, you can call them. So it's very, very easy. And then integrated document management. What does that mean? You can run your financial statements. If you think asking me, what's financial statement? Your profit and loss statement that you may need for something that day. Or you may suddenly have a question from somebody who wants to invest in your company and say, what does your profit and loss look like? You can run it right away. So that's the big thing. And like she said, seamless integration. You don't need something specific. You don't have a lot of data entry. Why? Because when you pay a bill, it automatically can be taken up, or you can get it out of your bank. You can get some information from your contractors. So there is less data entry. That's the biggest advantage of systems these days, unlike systems that we used to have in the past where everything had to be entered. I remember running software many, many years ago where you had to program it, you have to punch cards, you have to enter a lot of data. I even used to do budgets for the city of Houston. Boy, we used to spend a lot of time entering information. So that's what is the disadvantage. And you don't need very expensive equipment. You can just use a desktop or a laptop that you have. So that's one other advantage. So that's the big thing. And you don't have to maintain the network because Intuit will be the one that if they have any downtime, they will figure out. Okay. And you can update your software just like Microsoft. When you use Microsoft Edge or Microsoft any kind of product, it's easy to update the software. Okay. Why don't you need a backup? Well, because it's already in their cloud. That means they have a system where they can upload the information. What happened now? I can move it to the next one. What? Hang on, you guys. I can move it. Come on. What's going on here? Okay. We talked about that. I'm going to do is what's the subscription levels that we are going to talk. Okay. Let me see whether I can get to this. Okay. Subscription levels. This one, I am not expert on this, but I can tell you a simple start, like she said, has put it down here. It's only $12 a month. That's very, very small amount of money. You go down and have breakfast in a restaurant, you most probably spend more than $12, So that's pretty cheap for having anything. And you can have advanced things that would help you where you can buy more stuff. So that being the case, what is a simple start give you? It'll track now income, your expenses. It can organize your receipts. It can maximize your tax deductions. Why? Because it'll tell you what is it that you have forgotten to include for your invoices. And you don't have to have a separate invoicing system. You can send an invoice and also accept payments for it. And for those of us that are home-based businesses and we use our car or a truck for business, you can track your miles, what the miles that you're using for your business, and you can run your reports. So what's the difference between a simple start and essentials? Here you can see you can prepare your 1099s, you can manage your bills and track time, and then you can include 3 users. That means that's a big advantage. If you have a bookkeeper, an accountant, so you can have more than one user. So as you go further in these things, when you pay more, obviously you can have more users, you can track inventory. So these are all the things. But with an advanced system, what is it that you're going to get? You can use a lot of business analytics. That means look at what the gross profit is. What are those ratios kind of things, And you can also assign jobs. If you have more than one person in the office, somebody managing your inventory, that means they have access to those kind of accounts. Somebody managing your receivables, then that's another account manager. So there are different ways in which you can use the technology. Then, um, well, we just talked about it. You track incomes and expenses. You maximize your tax deductions. We said track sales, sales tax. Sales tax is very, very important because in, anything a customer buys from you, they pay the sales tax, and sales tax reports are due every quarter. That means you need to know how much of sales tax you collected. Sales tax is not your revenue, it's a charge that the state of Texas imposes on us for buying things. The customer pays, so you are only collecting it on behalf of the state. So you're going to have to send it on to them. So that's why sales tax and sales tax reports are very, very important. Then uh, you can manage your businesses. Uh, that's kind of interesting to see multiple currencies. That's very crucial for someone who is doing export import business. If you are working with some business in, say, Mexico or Canada or anywhere else in the world, Germany, you need to know their currency, what they are going to pay you, how do you interpret, how much do you get for it, So those are the kind of thing that becomes very important. And one thing that I did mention, sales tax, QuickBooks is very handy for people that are doing e-commerce. When you sell things online, and let's say you're selling to some place in Pennsylvania, Allegheny County, does the counties charge a sales tax? Those kind of pieces of information is available on QuickBooks. So those kind of things are very, very good. And track billable hours by customer. What does that mean? That is, if you're doing a contract, let's say you're doing a contract for the city of Houston or something, you need to know if you're charging them by so many hours worked. That means each employee that works on the contract, you can track how many hours they work. So when you do your invoicing, it'll be a lot easier for you to do that. Okay. Then, uh, um, why would it be important for you to know? Prepare a 1099. Many of the small businesses don't have employees. They have contractors. They use contractors to do their job. So what happens then? You pay them and you keep track of what you're paying them. But at the end of the year, by January 31st, you do have to give them their 1099. That is the contract, how much you paid them in the year. So that one you can prepare and print them, or you may be able to e-file them. So that is very critical, especially if you're using contractors to do work for you. And the other thing is, it's also very important you can prepare budgets. Why would anybody need a budget? How would you know what it's going to cost you to make something? Let's say I'm manufacturing something. I estimate this is what it's going to cost me. But in reality, the cost may be higher. The materials you're buying may be higher. You need to know how much you really paid versus what you estimated that you're paying, because you may be estimating your income based on what the cost of the material was going to be or what the cost of manufacturing is going to be. So you prepare a budget, then you compare the budget with the actual cost and decide what is it that you did wrong. If it was costing you too much to buy the material, you may have to look for another supplier. during this pandemic, a lot of people had that problem. They couldn't get the supplies on time. And then what happened? People like Walmart, they bought a lot of things and stacked too much. Now they're unable to offload it. That means they're going to sell it at a discount. That means you're going to lose money. So budgets and keeping track of costs are going to be very important. Then, um, what does mean unlimited general ledger accounts? That means normally in accounting, in the old fashioned way, when we used to do everything by hand, we used to keep books. We used to call them ledgers. That's how the names came. You would keep one for accounts receivable, you would keep something for inventory, you would keep something for payable. So all these are all used to be called ledgers. But now, using accounting codes, you can combine them. If you have 10 people that you're buying your inventory from, so you have 10 suppliers that you have to pay them. What was the last invoice? So you can keep track. That's where the ledgers and accounts comes up, and for you to know. So you can get a whole bunch of invoices, pay them online, and keep going. Okay. Then let me see. What else was there? See, here they're saying you can use 25 users, with advanced permissions. So that's a great thing. I don't think anybody has 25 people to be manipulating their accounts, because as far as I know, if you delegate your responsibilities to many people, then you lose control of the money. What's coming in, what's going on. There's going to be, we have a class on fraud. When you have too many people digging into things, then there is a very good likelihood that may cause problems, So that's why you have to keep control of things, And let's say somebody's selling cosmetics at house parties. So what do? You keep track of what the income and expenses are. Here, maybe they have some small inventory. Maybe they don't have a whole bunch, and everything is paid by credit card. So what do? You download your expenses from your credit card into your account so you can sort it out. It's very, very simple. Then QuickBooks Simple Start, we already gave this. I'm not going to talk more about it. Dental practice, what happens here? A dentist, you go to the dentist and he bills your insurance, right? But what happens is the insurance doesn't pay all the money. They have a deductible. So what does the dentist have to do? He's going to have to prepare a bill that says the X amount of charge, let's say $150. The insurance paid $125. So then they have to come back to you and ask you as a customer to pay the balance. So that means you have to have the software to bill the insurance company. You also have to keep track of how much the customer has to pay. So this is what it's going to be, And then you pay. Normally what we pay is we pay most of the people with checks or credit cards, and you can get the information from your bank and consolidate it, So this is what it's saying. You can use it for a doctor office or a bookkeeper or a CPA. Interior design firm. What do they need? They need materials for doing their work. They have to keep track of how much material they used in doing the design. And what will they be doing? They will be charging the customer for it. So you need to know what are not only the billable hours, how many hours you spent on the job, but also what are the materials, how much time did it take for you to get things, So that's where you have to track the revenue. If you have more than one designer working for you, you may want to know how much are they producing for you. See, so track revenue by the designer that is using. And how much time does it take? I have someone I know who is doing a lot of interior decorations, and that's what they have. They have quite a few people that they work with. So they need to keep track of the expenses and the inventory items, right? Then let's see. Mortgage company. Let's say, what does a mortgage company do? First and foremost, they have to make sure that they appraise the building or appraise the property, right? Then for each one, you have to keep the appraisal number before. You have to give it to the state what kind of appraisal was done for the property. And once you get that, you also need to know what kind of loan did they get, what kind of payment is it. So you have to have a lot of people that need to be looking at these various numbers, but also other documents in question. Okay. So when you do QuickBooks Online, you can set up your payments. You can send your first invoice. Hang on, let me see when something is happening. Okay. You need to set up your payments, send your invoices, and then you can swipe cards, from the person. So that's what you can do as a online, test drive company. You can check it out. Okay. And you can see here that the invoices, how much was done, how much is unpaid, $5,000 worth of unpaid invoices, and you can track your expenses. And every month you can prepare your profit and loss statement, And when you look at what your bank balance is, what's it in the QuickBooks, you can see, So what are various possibilities? Come on. I'm having the same issue again. It's not moving. Okay, we did that. Saying because QuickBooks is web-based, you need a web browser to access it, You can choose Google, Microsoft Edge, and so on. Let me see. For using your real QuickBooks, you have to use your sign in and the password to go forwards with it. Then using a wizard, I'm not going to go into all these details. You need to know what will you want to use your QuickBooks for. Before you decide to use QuickBooks, you need to see what is it that I'm going to use it for. In this case, that they have an example, you want to track your invoices, you want to organize your expenses, and then you want to manage your inventory. Why is managing inventory so critical? Because managing inventory, you don't want a lot of obsolete inventory because they may not be worth something. The other day, someone was giving a workshop and they were telling the first time when you see an item in a store, the price would be X dollars. Next time you go, they have already discounted it 25%. And then if you go after another month or so, it's discounted 50%. You don't want that. You want to manage your inventory so that it's not obsolete, And then you want to track your sales, okay? And who are you? That's what it's going to be. Are you the owner? Or are you just an employee working for it? If you are an employee, how much access do you want to see? Maybe your employees want to see how much money you're making, Or you go into your accountant and he's going to prepare your profit and loss statements or your taxes. So that's what's the role of each person in the business. So QuickBooks Online interface that we talked about setting up payments. Like I was saying, if you buy stuff and your supplier, he gives you 30 days to pay the money. So why would you want to pay ahead of time? So use the best way you can. If he gives you without any penalty, you can pay in 30 days. Take the time and pay it in 30 days. That's why setting up payments becomes very critical, And then if you want to send invoices to someone, you can send them too. How much work you did, what you did. Okay. Here's an example, setting up of accounts. Okay. You can add new users. You can give somebody an access to your account. Your accountant doesn't have to come to your office. He can just access your account and prepare the documents for you. And then see, you can give access who is going to be allowed and what are they going to be allowed. User type, it says master administrator. That means they will have access to not only just the books, they may have access to your bank accounts too. So that's what you're looking for. Here you have different kinds, invoices that we talked about. What is chart of accounts? Because these days we have to have a code for everything. See, that's very critical. You can have a code for inventory. Those of you that have attended webinars on financial statements, you may remember that in your balance sheet, when you have assets. Assets are going to be your inventory, your accounts receivable. So you can set it up such that all those have a certain account codes. Then any kind of asset that is long term, like equipment, building, all those things have different sets of accounts. Then on the other side of the equation, you have liability. You could have liabilities that are due within a year that we call current liability. So those kind of liabilities, your taxes payable, your invoices payable, your loan payable within a year. These are all current liabilities, and their accounts will be grouped into another set of accounts. You can see here, if you have inventory, it's a current asset. Okay. If you are owner's investment, that's the owner's equity. Like your balance sheet, I was saying, assets will be equal to liability and owner's equity. So you not only give the account name, but you also have to say what kind of account it's going to be. See, all the owners pay personal expenses is what you're going to pay. And then if you have sales, that's going to be an income statement. And why? Why is this type of coding essential for you? That's because you can group them together when you prepare your financial statement. Like I said, you buy material. So that's going to be cost of goods, because that interior decorator, remember, they were buying material to fix the houses. So that's where their cost of material that they were going to use for. So these kind of things have to be set up, so that you can combine them to prepare your documents. So what do you have to do? You can ask for help. You can do notifications to anybody that you want to send information to. We talked about chart of accounts. Suppose what are recurring transactions that you can do? Suppose you have material where you are paying rent or you're paying in mortgage. Those are all recurring. Every month it has to be paid. Your loan payment has to be done on a recurring basis. So you can do that as a recurring transaction. Then they'll automatically send the bill or automatically make the payments. Okay. So that's the kind of thing that we talk about recurring transactions. Then they come to, You can set up your own, customize how you want to send them. You may want to say a thank you message in your invoice. You can add that as part of your invoice. And then you can order checks. We can order checks now. Anybody that doesn't even do a business will be doing that, ordering checks. Or suppose you want to get some information, like I used to do the books as a treasurer. I used to go and say, okay, at the end of the month, import information from my bank. So I would import it. And the thing is, if they had already classified certain expenses, it'll automatically, immediately code it to the right place, Or export information back. You want to send your tax return, you can do that. And you can see pretty much what we can do and what we cannot do. So you can add customers, vendors, employees. So just simply invoices. I'm not going to go through this. Set up new things. say purchase orders, expenses that have been created recently, for an example. If you want to say invoicing, I already mentioned this about invoicing. You can set up online in-person payment. Suppose they want to pay by credit cards, they can pay for it by credit card, and you can automatically get the money out to your banks. So here's the how to create sales receipts. You get invoices, like even QuickBooks will send you an invoice automatically. They have you in the system, they can send you an invoice, and you can do the same thing for your own customers that are repeat customers for you. So QuickBooks, it works well, but it takes time. You got to familiarize yourself with the system. What do you do with payroll? Why is payroll so important? Payroll is important because you have to pay your employees. And suppose they work different hours and you have a standard rate for them per hour. They have to put in what the hours they work with so that their payroll for that period can be calculated. And not only that, their social security has to be taken into account. So that's what payroll is going to become very, very crucial for. Gone are the days when you had to have another payroll processing person. We used to have ADT and other people processing payrolls. Now with QuickBooks, you don't need those kind of companies to do your payroll. So see, you can get an extra payroll processing center. And I think this is the cost for that. If you just get a simple core, it could be $22 a month. Having a premium on payroll costs you more. This gives you a more. You can see the differences. A simple core payroll system is you take what's the health benefit that you're going to pay for them. So those are the kind of things that you're going to have for a direct deposits can be done. Whereas if you pay a little bit more for your team, then they can do workers' compensation administration, and then you can track time, how much they are putting in. So those kind of things can be done with the premium. And the elite payroll system does even more. It does tax penalty protection. Why? Because you don't pay on time, because payroll taxes have to be filed every quarter. And you also have unemployment payroll you have to pay if you have a large number of people and you pay them quite a bit. So you have to do your payroll, the payroll taxes as well. So, so you can run your own payroll automatically. That way you don't have to worry about, am I doing this right or am I not doing wrong? But remember, the information is only as good as you put in information. Suppose I'm working for you and you're going to pay me, well, let's say $20 an hour. You have to enter that. Otherwise, my payroll won't be correct, right? It's only as good as information you enter. It's only going to be as good as what it is. Suppose they're a contract person. A contract person doesn't have to work 40 hours, whereas an employee may be working 40 hours. Maybe they work overtime. So you need to understand that you have to have the best thing possible for it, right? So you have to work with the company to set up your payroll system. You have to apparently fill out some forms, and you can have, if you were using a third party to do your payroll, and now you want to do it yourself, you're going to have converted from that old system to your new system. You have to set up your banking information. And like I said, you need to say what are the hours, how much, and how much are you going to have them pay for a retirement or what do you call a 401k plan that you have. You need to set up properly. And So it can make a direct deposit from your bank to their bank, and then it'll also put in information, what are the state ID numbers, what are the tax rates and stuff like that. Then, so payroll reports, what does it give? It gives you by employee, you can track. Suppose you have Joe working for you for so long. How much did he work? How many hours did he work? What did he make? Or you can also have, your the payments, how much you paid for them. But what's your payroll taxes going to be? A retirement plan. Not every company has a retirement plan, because many times employees are expected to pay their own IRAs, So not every company, a small business may have a retirement plan, So that may not be for you. And then sometimes vacation, if you work for a certain number of time with you, you may give them family leave, or you may give them just regular vacation time. So you can track vacation and sick leave and those pieces of information. And again, these are all costs. So, so what are the bank information that you can get, and how can you do reconciliation? So let's look at that. So you can get information from your bank, what kind of information you can upload, what's the checking amount you have, what you have in your QuickBooks, and you can see, that what has been paid, you can download it. And it says here, it's got a bunch of stuff here. Some they didn't get the information, the QuickBook didn't have, it didn't recognize the information, so it didn't match it up. Whereas you may have to add on saying that so and so is a new employee, so and so is a new supplier. So you have to add that up. So when you consolidate everything and want your information, that's what it does. QuickBook can do that real easy. So you can set up with any of these banks, work with them. That's not a problem. I've worked with Wells Fargo, Bank of America, Capital One. All of them have where you can get information from them. So, see, download data from your bank. Once a month, normally people will download information from the bank, because the bank payment comes through the bank, disbursements go through the bank. So you download the information from your bank. And then you set it up for that particular month. When we talk about reconciling, you hear a lot from the accountants talking about reconciling. How do they manage to match? Oh, I bought this material. I bought something for $2,000. What was it? So you need to reconcile it, saying this material is supposed to be an inventory, or this material is used to be in my manufacturing part. So that's what you're going to have to figure that out. So it does take time, and it does take some experience. When you download from the bank, you will get a whole bunch of stuff. The accounts have to be managed between the two. Sales tax. I told you sales tax is very critical for anybody that's doing business. There was a time when we didn't have sales tax for services, but nowadays some of the services also have to have service tax. I didn't know plumbers and electricians. Now, when they come and do a work for you, they have to do professional service tax. You have to find out if whatever business you are doing, whether it is taxable from the state of Texas, right? So again, you can record your payment and see how much of sales tax has been. You can see on this particular example that they have here, they have gross sales and how much is taxable on that, and what's the tax amount that was collected. So at the end of the month, you'll have to know how much of tax you have collected. Why is it so important? Because if you become a big company and you collect a lot of sales tax, you cannot wait for the next 3 months for you to pay the money to the state. They want you to pay them quickly. So that's why it's very important to calculate what's the amount due. So let's look at quickly at reporting. What kind of reports that they do? Again, these are all the costs that they're talking about and what you can do with them. What are the different kinds of reports? What is the accounts receivable aging summary? I don't know if any one of you know. You may sell things and you may have an invoice pending and they have not paid it to you. So you put it as an accounts receivable. And when you look at your accounts receivable, you want to make sure that your accounts receivable is less than 30 days, or maybe it's less than 60 days, 90 days. Anything over 90 days, accountants, we have a little question because it may not be collectible. If your vendor, your customer has not paid you within 90 days, there is a possibility that you may not be able to collect it. That's why accounts receivable aging is important. And accountants normally don't like if you have a lot of accounts receivable. They want to take a look at it because how much is really accounts receivable, and we call it accounts receivable turnover. How often do they get less and go over? Same thing will happen with inventory. How large an inventory you have? How fast is the inventory turning over? How many days does it stay in the inventory? These are all important pieces of information that you need to run a successful business. So that's what is taking accounts receivable. And then you have balance sheets that you can prepare for any time. You can compare your profit and loss for this month versus last month, or maybe this quarter versus the next quarter, the last quarter, because that gives you a trend. Did I do better? Did my sales improve? What is it that's happening? So that's what you want to look at. If you are making a contract with a company like a state or someone, they want to know what is it that you purchased, how much hours you put in, and what are you billing them. And unfortunately, when you work for a big um, state and federal organization, they take a long time to pay the bill. One of the contractors was telling me that it sometimes takes him 45 days or more to get paid by these people. So you need to know how long have you been, it is since you sent an invoice, So you can get those kind of pieces of information from your various reports, And you can go in and look. Suppose you have, like I said, accounts receivable. You can look at who are the vendors, when was the invoice sent. That's the detailed part of the report. Same thing with sales. I had a client who was having a pet shop and he wanted to track, not pet grooming place. So they had boarding fees. Sometimes they used to keep the dogs or cats for a couple of weeks when the owners were away, or they may just keep them for a couple of days. They may do grooming. Sometimes they would just give them some immunization shots. So depending on the kind of information, you can figure out what are you doing, how often are these things being utilized. So that's what, or they may sell products for pets. They may sell special food, special things for pets. So is it which part of your business is being profitable? You can understand that by breaking down your sales by different category. That's why you call it specialized or detailed reports. So they have classes, apparently video tutorials for QuickBooks online, and then they can have help. You can call. Most probably they will answer your phone calls. And then I am almost done. So I'm going to look at what are the questions people have up here and if I can answer. I am pretty sure you can start at $12 a month and change it to another monthly payment if you outgrow or your business gets better. Um, I'm sorry, sir. We don't have anything that we do for selling QuickBooks, so I don't think you can get a discount. Maybe Jada, our presenter, she works with them. I will give her email address. You can mail her, and she may be able to tell you if she can get you a discount. Um, Medicare and Social Security, yes, you can calculate, and you may be withholding a certain amount from the employee's paycheck. So that's where it'll be a payroll deduction. If you work with an accountant, do you use the accounting software they prefer or you prefer? No, many of the accountants these days will use QuickBooks. So I don't think they would have any problem, but I think it's up to you. Find an accountant who wants to use the same software you're using, because that's where your comfort level is. So work with them. Uh, uh, I think you can. I'm not sure. You may have just like any kind of property, you're asking whether you can separate out who has access to certain sections and who hasn't. I'm sure you can separate them out. A bookkeeper, it will be only keeping track of your expenses, putting information in the QuickBooks or any other accounting system, whereas an accountant, according to Texas, an accountant is really one that's a CPA, a certified public accountant, who is able to do your taxes, your audits, and do things. What's the difference? A bookkeeper may not be required to take classes. If they take classes, that may be because they want to take the classes. Whereas an accountant, the CPA, we are required to complete so many hours of continuing education. So we keep track of what's happening. Uh, I am sure QuickBooks can keep track of cash versus accrual. What's accrual? Most of the businesses will be on accrual basis, because why? If you get an invoice, you send an invoice. You make a sale, you send an invoice. You record it as a sale and as an invoice that has been sent as an accounts payable. Accounts receivable. So when you get the money, that is when you get rid of the accounts receivable and you put cash. That means it's a double entry. You have entered two entries for the same thing. So most of the businesses will be on an accrual basis. Okay. Let me see what I can. I am sure you can connect with more than one bank. Accounts receivable aging, it's not that it's not revenue, it's not the cash you have received. Because when you do an accrual system, even if you didn't get the cash, it'll still be considered as a sales. Let me see if there's anything else. I'm sorry, I had someone said they're startup, and I think I'm going to put in here to all the people, I'm going to give you something. The lady who is normally does this, her name is Jada Harris. She's a SCORE volunteer as well as a QuickBook expert. You can send her an email and she can answer all your calls, okay? And if you need a copy of the presentation, you can request me. And I can send you a copy of the presentation and also the link for the presentation. So that's about in a nutshell what we have done today. So I'm sorry that she couldn't come today and I had to do this for you. So see all of you again and send email to Jada and she will help you. Okay. Thank you for attending. Bye.